Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Patmos. It is March 25th. I was thinking last night about um, the idea of concept versus execution in science and which deserves greater credit, which is more important. If someone creates an idea, comes up with a concept, and then someone else actually successfully implements it, who gets the credit? Well, it actually turns out that that is a age-old dilemma in science and the source of a lot of controversy and friction. And the answer is it all depends. It depends upon how much the original inventor did and versus how much the secondary inventor contributed. in in patent law, it's quite different. In patent law, the primary inventorship belongs to the person with the idea, whether or not they did anything with it. In patent law, implement everything else. The implementation is everything that follows invention. Without the idea, there's nothing to execute or implement. So, why am I bringing this up, and to what does this relate? Well, for those of you who follow this area of science and medicine, there's been a lot of controversy over who is responsible for creating the technology for transfecting the messenger RNA. Dr. Malone has made it very clear that he believes he is the inventor of mRNA transfection. He claims that he's responsible for the vaccine and responsible for the process. On the other hand, the medical literature and the scientific literature shows that the concept behind it was published 2 years earlier by Dr. Feldner in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, where he described using DOTMA-infused liposomes in a process called lipofection to transfect DNA. In that very same paper, Dr. Feldner suggested that the process could be used to transfect RNA and even oligonucleotides. Well, 2 years later, along comes his student, Dr. Malone, who just graduated from grad school and is in a PhD program, to do that work, to actually try and transfect RNA using Feldner's recipe. Well, it turned out that Feldner's recipe works great for DNA, but it didn't work as well for RNA. It required some adjustments in the various solutions and the pH and so forth. There were some chemical modifications that needed to be done to the process to be able to successfully transfect RNA. So, under the direction of his mentors, Dr. Feldner and Dr. Verma, Malone came up with the process. He tweaked the process and made it successful. He was able to transfect RNA using Feldner's materials and Feldner's process with some modifications. And he wrote the paper, as the student often does, get his name first on the paper. But then it got interesting because then a patent application was filed with Malone's name first, and that created a lot of friction. Feldner crossed out Malone's name. A patent was eventually filed with Feldner first and with Malone's name last, indicating that he contributed, but he was not the primary inventor. So that gets at this issue of which is more important, the idea or the execution, the concept or the implementation. And the reality is they're both important, and it all depends on the relative contribution of each. In this case, Feldner clearly had the idea first to use dogma infused liposomes to transfect DNA, and then he actually did it. And he had the idea first to try that process to also transfect RNA and oligonucleotides. But it was Malone who had to act on that and did so and changed up the process to make it successful. They both deserve credit. In a patent situation, however, the primary inventor is clearly the one who had the concept. The ownership belongs to the originator of the conceptual idea. Everything else is just implementation. So I think, in fairness, looking at this overall, the problem is really one of willingness or unwillingness to share credit. In science, rarely is anything done by one individual. The work that one scientist does is always based upon the work of those who have preceded them. And credit is often shared or should be shared in these situations. And here we have a situation where there's an unwillingness to share credit. But I thought you might find this illuminating, because I've been wrestling with this very issue for years, trying to figure out how much credit is deserved by whom in this process. And it is clear that it's a shared situation. Feldner had the idea. Feldner developed lipofection, and Dotma Malone tweaked it to make it work for RNA. They both deserve credit.